Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. That's ziprecruiter.com/zip. ziprecruiter.com/zip.
Hi, welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, I'm a critic, consultant, and programmer based in Toronto, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Anita Doron, a Hungarian-Canadian filmmaker whose movies include The End of Silence, Late Fragment, and The Lesser Blessed, all of which she wrote and directed. She also wrote the screenplay for the Oscar-nominated animated feature The Breadwinner. Her latest, written by Tamara Faith Berger, is Maya and Samar, and stars Nicolette Pierce and Amanda Babai Vieira as 2 young women, one Canadian and one Afghani, who meet in Athens and embark on a relationship that will change their lives forever. After premiering at the Thessaloniki Film Festival last fall, it is now playing in theaters across Canada. Anita chose Goodbye Dragon Inn, Tsai Ming-Liang's 2003 study of a Taipei movie house on its final night of operation, screening King Hu's 1966 wuxia epic Dragon Inn for a handful of customers who drift in and out of the screening for their own very different reasons. The projectionist and the woman who runs the box office are also dealing with their own stuff over the course of the evening, and the way these various characters interact, or don't interact, becomes a drama in itself. Zoe's meditative pacing and minimalist character detail invite us into this tiny world which only exists for one evening in the dark. This is Someone Else's Movie.
I think it was one of the movies that left me absolutely speechless. I saw it at the Toronto Film Festival. And I've been interested in cinema from a very young age. At 12, I made an illegal documentary in the former Soviet Union about a river that was being polluted. We shot it on Super 8. And we got in trouble with the local bureaucracy, and, we were threatened, and we continued nonetheless. Eventually, the film came back exposed because we fucked up exposure. So my passion for film was present from a young age, but it always seemed a theoretical, distant possibility. And when I saw Goodbye Dragon and another film by Tsai Ming-Liang, it felt inescapable. This is what I must devote my life to, because capturing a simple moment with such intensity, peering into somebody's life and sitting with this moment where nothing happens. You could say nothing significant happens. It's banal. There's no drama, but it's so fascinating. You're so deeply in with the person. It gave me a different view of what the power of cinema can achieve, how close it can bring you to another person. You can feel their skin. You can, hear their breath. You can understand their character just from the way they unwrap something. I find it absolutely magical.
I mean, I have the same response, more or less. I was, my grandfather owned a movie theater when I was a kid in Toronto. Little dinky one. It's gone now, long since gone. It's a home and craft decor store, but the rake is still there. So as you walk in, you can feel yourself getting lower, the way the seats would have slid down. But until I was 10, that was my after school daycare a lot of the time.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I was so spoiled, and I never had a chance at a normal life. It's my stock line. It was always going to be something to do with film. But the love that Tsai has for this theater, the Fuhi Grand, I know he's had that experience of just walking around an old theater, listening to the noises, listening to the sprockets. There's the same kind of texture in The Secret Agent when that film visits a theater in the middle of its narrative. It's not quite nostalgia, right? Like it's love. There's this beauty and this empty space where a handful of people are sitting, living separately, but experiencing the same thing, which is, it's my favorite thing about movies is that we're all like 500, 600 of us in a movie theater, seeing and hearing the same thing, getting the same stimulus, but each of us bringing ourselves to it and reacting differently.
And I love how exactly, and these little moments, vignettes, and the movie so deeply extends beyond its frame. It's really this communion with the audience where you're left to fill up the blanks and imagine why this person is coming to the cinema, why this person is limping, what are they feeling, what will they do after. It's really, really exciting. If you watch it kind of, at the end of an exhausting day and you want to be entertained, this movie will not give you that hit. And, this is not that movie. This is a movie where you have to be in a cinema, which is, it's about the end of cinema as we experienced it in the past.
It's strange because going in, it is, if you know Tsai Ming-Liang's films, you will understand that you're not going to get that kind of experience, right? Like this isn't going to be a satisfying 90-minute bang bang narrative where you come out the other end feeling like everything is concluded. And in 2003, it was such a charming diversion for him because like his films have been dryly funny in the past, but I think this is the funniest one he's made just because it is all about people not connecting, like the missed connections that happen over and over again, people misinterpreting each other or not even noticing each other. The one proper connection that's made is two people who made the movie together and are reuniting now after decades. The strangers miss each other and remain strangers. And there's a character whose purpose is simply to try to hit on people and fail over and over and over again. This tourist who shows up and cruises and doesn't get anywhere. And the one time it almost happens for him, he's the one who just sort of gives up and wanders off. It almost feels like a movie about how unsatisfying it can be to put a film into the world because the movie is there, but it's not like Dragon Inn is playing and it's there. It's a film from the 60s. So this movie has been around for decades and it's the last thing being shown in this theater and the film has endured, but nobody's really there to see it. They're there to reconnect with the theater. The movie is just an excuse.
Do you feel this in your movie-going experience? Do you feel that this is just an excuse to, for example, digest whatever I have in my life or escape whatever I'm going through?
I think it depends on the film, but yeah, absolutely. Art can serve that purpose. And I've been to theaters on the night of their closing. The Willow in the 80s that closed with a double bill of No Way Out and Bestseller, which are films with much more action than Dragon Inn or Goodbye Dragon Inn. But the sense this was a theater in North York in Toronto. It would have been in either late 1987 or early 1988. And it was such a beautiful, weird experience because all the neighborhood was there. There were these eccentric older people who'd been coming since, whenever the place opened in the 60s, or even earlier. And then there was me, 20 years old and maybe not even, and just there to send the place off. But it was lively and big. And when the last movie ended, the lights came up and the staff came out on the stage and took a little bow. And it was lovely. This film is the opposite of that. It's the sadness of a forgotten space. And maybe it's just because the weather's miserable, but nobody showed up to bid farewell. It's there to be closed down. And so the melancholy that just layers in over the characters, over the location, it's such a beautiful, sad, spare environment for a place that I think, at least my inference is that it no longer serves its purpose.
Mm.
What do you
That's
think?
beautiful. And I always admire, it's been years since I've seen it, and then I kind of rewatched it recently in my hectic state. I'm in production and it's intense, although animation is different. But I paid attention to textures more this time and the oiliness of this movie. You're drowning in this oiliness. You're so visceral, and it's very rare for a film to have a texture that reaches into you physically. And
Yeah, well,
this film,
especially now that everything's sort of slick and digital in a different way.
yeah, yeah. There's the oiliness is very hard to achieve.
Well,
Mm.
the rain outside and the smoke inside, right? Like
The
there's
color,
always something changing
yeah,
the environment, affecting the
and
space.
and the degradation, the falling apart.
Yeah,
The
the grinding noises that come out of the projection room that shouldn't be making that noise, and yet everybody's used to it and like nobody's upset by it.
It's wild you grew up. I'm just fascinated that you grew up in a in this context.
It was just sort of taken for granted in my family too, and I was a kid, so I didn't really ask that many questions about it. But our theater was my theater was called the Orpheum, and it was at Bathurst and Queen. If and it was this. I mean, it's tiny now. That's the thing. Like when you go back to a space when you're an adult as opposed to a child, that everything is smaller and more cramped. But it's much narrower than I remembered. It was more like a bowling alley shape.
Why did your grandfather decide to own a movie theater? That's very special in that time. That's very particular.
I think it was cheaper than a lot of other business options at the time because once you had the building, you could just, it was just a sense of rolling movies in. Tickets weren't expensive, and you made money on the concessions more than anything else. I mean, he taught us things about that. This I remember vividly. He said, "If you're not going to sell popcorn, you might as well sell the building." But it is the best food in the world, right? So that's my Proustian Madeleine, the scent of popping corn, and things like that have just never left me. And I'm my brain is filling in the sights of Goodbye Dragon Inn with the smells that are going on in there as well, the cigarettes and the concession stand and whatever else is happening. And yeah, there's probably mildew on the seats or mold or something from this gigantic space that's clearly not been cared for. And people keep coming back. Like the handful of people who show up in the last night are probably the ones who've been coming and keeping it alive for as long as it's been struggling. And the melancholy and wistfulness of it is it's almost tactile in the same way, right? Like you can feel it, you can smell it, you can see it as a thing, as a real place that's about to cease to exist.
Hmm. And you want to be there with them in this final experience of nothingness.
Yeah.
We need these. We need nothingness. We need to experience. That's what this movie also does. You experience emptiness, and it fills you. It's extremely rare.
Yeah. Well, and the tiny gestures become so important too. Like the fact that the ticket taker is trying to give a steamed bun to the projectionist over and over again. She just carries it around with her like she's going to, like she has to leave it for him or a mouse will steal it. Like the sense that you can't leave food out, that there are rituals that have developed in this place around the care of it because it is so decrepit. But it's an act of, if not love, then at least service and faithfulness to from one employee to another.
Devotion.
Yeah.
Just like the filmmaker's devotion to the characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
To hold a shot while somebody walks up the stairs and then disappears, and we just hear the sound of their shoes shuffling. I mean, it's poetry.
Yeah. It's a beautiful way of showing us how effortful it is for her to move around as well. That she's walking with some difficulty that's never explained or even commented on, but it's just how she works through the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that so much, so little is explained or commented on. It's left to you.
Yeah. We drift in, we watch what happens, and then we drift away.
Yeah.
So you saw it with a festival audience with a crowd. How did it play?
I don't remember the crowd, and usually I'm very aware of the crowd reaction, but I just remember I was so stunned I've never seen anything like I've never seen minimalism in cinema, and to see this is what's possible, this is what cinema can be. It completely bewildered me. So I think I was in a strange euphoria for a long time. I think I even left. I just had to go and just digest this movie and been a fan of his work and yeah, what what is possible with minimalism, how far you can go.
Yeah, I was familiar with his films. I think I'd seen all of them because there was a strange surge. It was the early years of DVD when he started making movies, and this one label, uh, Fox Lorber, which became Wellspring, just threw out a whole bunch of masters on DVD to launch themselves and sort of corner the market on foreign language films in North America. So The Hole came out, and What Time Is It There came out, and The River, and Vive l'Amour, and they were all in these terrible transfers, but at least they were available. So I just gorged on them. I think What Time Is It There was the first one I saw in a theater, but I did see Goodbye Dragon Inn after that. And although it was a press screening with maybe 14 people, it was just, yeah, it was bliss. I just sank into it.
Maybe we were at the same screening.
Possibly. It was about a week before the festival.
Oh, no, no, no. It was during the festival, but at the press and industry screening, I think. It wasn't the public screening.
Yeah. I mean, I watched the restoration fairly recently, and it looks like film again, which is great because the previous home releases, had not been terribly well mastered. But there really was nothing like seeing this movie in a movie theater. It instantly puts you in communication with your entire past, with your history as a filmgoer.
Hmm. Watching your own movie faded in the background.
Well, I mean, this is an experience I've never had, but yeah, certainly as a director yourself, that's going to happen. That's like a constant reality, right? You watch films with an audience, you watch films with the post-production team, yourself, an editor, all of it over and over again.
Yeah, very different experiences. I remember I was once pregnant. Well, I was pregnant only once in my life, but I was pregnant for a premiere of a film I made with a few friends in Mexico. And my baby was quite peaceful until the screening. And I remember sitting in a cinema and the baby started kicking for the first time because I was so overexcited and anxious. And just as we've begun the screening of what it's going to do, it's incredibly vulnerable and horrifying and scary. And I don't know why it has such an intense effect that made my baby kick.
Oh, it's sympathy. That makes sense to me.
I think there were so many chemicals, so much adrenaline circulating that it got to the little boy, and he went da da da, and then he got peaceful again after just this one moment in time where he was kicking, and it was because I was sitting and watching a film I made, sharing it with an audience.
Oh, that's the energy there is always at a premiere screening is just, it's my favorite thing. Like just watching people receive something for the first time and then reflect it back to the filmmakers, the cast and crew afterwards. It's such a thrill. And the sense too that it's only the first time a film will play. Like there will be other audiences, there will be other experiences, but you get to be there when it cracks open, and oh, it's so great.
Yeah. And the very last screening I attended of my film, Maya and Samar in Greece, was also quite surreal because Greek audiences talk to the film. And at first I thought, oh, I guess they hate the movie because they're talking. And then bit by bit, I realized they're talking to the characters. And then when certain character would do something outrageous, it'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? They would be, incensed and just big Greek gestures. I loved it. And then another time, another screening, I remember in Rome, we screened The Breadwinner, which is an animated film directed by Nora Toomey. I wrote it. And I was there to represent the film, and it was a group of teenagers, like 1,500 teens, and they treated the film like a football match, like not football, soccer, um, cheering and standing up and yelling. The energy, unforgettable experience.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a weird time to be putting movies out now. I'm watching audiences figure out how to see movies in a theater again after the pandemic, after the break, and everyone retreated back inside and convinced themselves that watching a movie at home was just as good. And it never is. I mean, it just isn't unless you have 100 people in the room with you. It's just
Yes.
not the same experience.
Yes, and it's exactly that. We need it more than ever now because we are fragmented, distracted people. We're faced with hyper engineered entertainment that is quick and easy to digest, and we desperately need to face things that are not easy to digest, where you have to not engage with anything but this film that's coming at you and you can't predict where it's going and what it will do to you. And then that you are with a group of people in this womb, dark space, experiencing it together, and you have to respect your fellow audience members and not engage in anything but the movie. There's a sense of respect towards the movie and the world around you that you can't have at home. You'll stop the movie, go to the toilet, look at your phone. I mean, a million little distractions that take away that kind of spiritual experience, that church-like feeling, which we need. We don't need organized religion, but we need spiritual experiences. We need to be together experiencing something, and we don't have that anymore. And cinema was that.
Hey, it's Norm interrupting my own show to bring you up to speed on Shiny Things, my newsletter about physical media, culture, and the odd streaming project. Last week, I reviewed Lightyear Entertainment's Blu-ray release of Diane Keaton's documentary Heaven, which plays very differently now. And of course, there was Friday's What's Worth Watching dispatch for paid subscribers. Sign up for a 14-day free trial at shiny-things.ghost.io or find a link at the Semcast Blue Sky account. You like reading about movies? I like writing about them. Come check it out.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. That's ziprecruiter.com/zip. ziprecruiter.com/zip.
I mean, I think that's what Tsai is saying in Goodbye Dragon Inn. It's about the loss of that experience. And even in 2003, things are shifting. People have DVDs and there's a mall very close to the theater, which is presumably selling a bunch of bootlegs that they aren't screening in the theater because they're already pirated. And so this older film is playing instead. The other film that screened apparently on the last day is L'Avventura. So it's going out as it meant to. Those two films being programmed, Dragon Inn and L'Avventura, are a statement from the theater owners. But also, I think it's really meaningful that neither of those films is seen as particularly modern. L'Avventura is a type of film that isn't made anymore, and it really wasn't even made then, right? Like, it's what Antonioni did. It's so singular and so 60s. And Dragon Inn is a Wuxia film from the past that is set in another kind of never was time. And the idea that this theater is going out with two films about other places, other times, other people
That never were.
Yeah, that feels really meaningful to me, even though I don't quite know why.
I guess you want something reflected at you that mirrors something where you are reaching for something that never was.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's beautiful. The final two films in here are things that are, impossible, that aren't that were achieved through the construction of those two worlds. That are, yes, they're fiction, but there's also this larger unreality to each movie that is kind of a comfort. They're genuinely an escape. And the thing I wanted to make sure I didn't forget was that the Chinese title of the film translates as "Don't Leave" or "Don't Scatter," which is so beautiful. And then
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I mean, according to Wikipedia, but I think I'd heard it somewhere before, maybe in the press notes. But there's also a here the title references a Chinese idiom which loosely translates as "I'll wait for you" or "I won't leave until I see you," which sounds like what a
Wow.
theater does, right? Like the physical building is there for the people.
I won't leave until I see you, which implies that once I see you, I will leave,
Or we'll leave together.
or we'll live together. Ah, I should have gone there. But everything reflects what we're going through.
Yeah. I mean, this film is only like what, 23 years old, and yet it feels just because it feels like a transmission from a different time in so many different ways. I mean, so many of Tsai's films do, and I think it's just because of the pacing that
Yeah, but it felt like that in 2003 as well. It felt like a transmission from a different age,
yeah,
from an age that may never happen.
yeah,
Nostalgia for something that never happened, that should exist.
yeah. That's melancholy to me.
Mm. And then the magic of celluloid and the light through celluloid. There's another film that I adore, The Last Picture Show by Penn Allen, who I had the incredible luck of meeting, but also the magic of projecting a film, that how light plays through celluloid, through colored, transparent material. And that's another thing we're missing, kind of direct contact with the mysterious and the magical, where we can accept that things cannot be explained. And I feel like we desperately need mysteries in our lives, like innocence. Innocence is what film carries. And
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I may have told this on the podcast before, told the story, but a couple of years ago when Finn Wolfhard and Billy Brick came to TIFF for a day of screenings of Jesse Eisenberg's film When You Finish Saving the World, which they're both in. I was doing the Q&As and the intros and kind of hung out with them for a few hours, and all they wanted to do was play around with reference library materials, old posters, reels of film, trailers. There were film cans of Ken Loach's Hidden Agenda, and I think it must have been Wolfhard. It couldn't have been Brick, who said that like on Stranger Things they've have lived in the 80s technically, right, because of the construction of the film and all the period settings. And the thing he most wanted to do was just play with the movie projectors that they brought in that were era specific. And of course, because he's a kid, he doesn't remember film projection,
yeah,
not organically, right? He grew up once digital was already kind of ensconced.
it's wild. Of course, there are people who've never experienced that concept of projecting using actual light and a material, and that's how you get a picture, and the magic of it, that it's not just digital. I just remembered we were once at the Motovan Film Festival, which is in Croatia. And they had a midnight screening of Pink Flamingo, and they brought out the real. It was an outdoor screening, and we had little scratch card. They actually made scratch card because in the film you would see numbers flashing, and then you scratch the card and smell it. So you smell what's you're supposed to smell in the film with.
Oh, polyester. John Waters
Oh,
polyester.
yes, the story. Yes,
That's okay.
yes.
Um,
Um,
that's yeah, I had that experience
yeah.
too once, and it's so it's so weird to have like that gimmick work, right? You think it won't, and then it does, and everyone in the room just kind of goes ooh when it happens the first time. It's so lovely.
But even just seeing them they carry this ginormous reel
Mm-hmm.
with the actual 35 millimeter print, and the reverence we felt, oh, there's the film, the actual one film that will be projected to all of us, this one, material creation that cannot, can easily go up in flames and then there is no more.
I think maybe more theaters should do that. Just parade the reels around like the Torah in a synagogue and just show everybody that this is here. And then I guess you lose time looping it up. But it's
Oh, who cares? I
yeah,
mean, we have time. Why are we rushing? Let's spend the time and worship the film reel and then have some popcorn and watch the movie.
yeah, I'm on board. I think that could work.
But imagine the rituals we could build around the film reel and the worship of the film reel and the prayers.
You're describing a Mad Max future ritual, I think. Like this is, because digital won't work, but the as long as you have a generator and a light bulb and a projector, you can make a movie play.
Yep.
It will run the same material, it will screen, it will have the same experience. And the dueling standards and all the other things that happened like in the early 2000s as digital was figuring itself out, I don't think it hurt film. But now if you look at a movie that was made in 1985 versus a movie that was made in 2025, there's just almost no relationship between the two. Like the qualities of light and sharpness are different, and your eye can tell when something was shot on film versus when it was shot on digital. And
Course, and also the way you shot, because you knew you had this precious film and you had to get the take and you had to, so it completely changed. I mean, I shot on 35 millimeter film, my student film, and that was the last time. No, and then I shot a short film on 35 mil, and that's it. And then it was digital, but it changed the way I direct.
I'm
And
sure, yeah.
not necessarily for the better. I mean, yes, there are some advantages, especially for guerrilla filmmaking, because you can do incredible things. In fact, things that will take you back to what Tsai Ming-Liang did, which are these incredible moments in between, and then you can capture reality and you can wait for something incredible to happen because you can just burn film. You don't have to worry about. But I remember when it was 35 millimeters, even 16, and you had, three precious reels that you got from Kodak or some grant, or you had this is it, that's all you can shoot. It changes everything.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing now, like that used to mean that you'd rehearse before you shot if you could, right? If there was any time just to make sure everyone knew what to do for the two takes you were likely to get. And now we're seeing, in some cases, people seem to be shooting the rehearsals and including them in the film. And sometimes it works, right? Sometimes there's a naturalism, but yeah.
Oh, I definitely shoot rehearsals, but you can critique it, no problem. But I do. I mean, I can go very long into why I believe in shooting rehearsals or not necessarily rehearsing the way we used to rehearse and what it brings to performance. Mm, because I desperately rage against anything that's artificial. So in film, especially now, um, there's so much actors have to disconnect from. So whatever I can do to facilitate that disconnection so they can just get lost in the moment and in their character. And that's why shooting rehearsal, you have less time to consider where you should move and how you should move and what's there. You just have to flow with it and you're surprised. And that surprise, working from that surprise or fear or anxiety gives authenticity. So I fight for it very hard.
Maya and Samar has long stretches of scenes where characters really just exist together, where we're not having long conversations and there's no, quote unquote plot driver for a given scene. Something is always happening, and in the end of the film, we understand what it was. But the way that script is structured and the way that you present it is almost sort of tricking us into just sitting and hanging out with people for 20 minutes at a time, which I found really interesting as they sort of live through very different lives that they only glance off of each other, right? Like their realities remain separate.
Yeah. And I would have loved to include more and more of those moments. And that's where, we we had to shoot this film in 16 days in two different countries. So whenever I could cram in a bit of that just minimalist moment, existing together, as you said, reflecting off of each other, tasting each other in every way, physically and spiritually.
Well, and so much of that depends on casting. And I've been trying to figure out a way to parallel, or not parallel, but to at least contrast Maya and Samar with Dragon Inn, because that's the gimmick that I use to get, towards the end of the podcast to sort of stitch things together. But I don't think it works in this case because one is about people really not communicating with, but communing with each other. Your film is about people who speak to each other but don't communicate, not really, but still find those moments of connection.
And they're unable to communicate, especially Maya, because there's so much prejudged and assumed And that's what fucks us up. All your assumptions about a situation or person, instead of just letting the assumptions go and sitting and observing and being with the person like the people are in Goodbye Dragon Inn, without prejudgment, without assumptions, without machinations. There's nothing. There's nothing but the person, the rapper, the movie, the smoke, the smell of the seat. Who knows? But yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely a contrast.
Yeah. There is a place that everyone goes in Maya and Samar that they can be themselves, they can be safe. We see it a couple of times, but in some ways, I don't think this is a spoiler since it's all about people who have to protect themselves at all times, but in some ways that place is a false front.
And Maya breaks it. Maya breaks the safety of it by just selfishly pulling out her camera and filming.
Within seconds, the second she gets there, she thinks she wants to, or she thinks she starts documenting it for what are supposed to be journalistic purposes, but it seems pretty clear she just wants things, and
Yeah.
the journalism is an excuse.
You mean she wants things from Samar, or she wants things for herself via journalism?
I think both. I mean, she seems like someone who lives for the experience rather than the writing about it afterwards, right? The journalism is the way she justifies doing the things she does.
Interesting. Yes, but she consumes it. She consumes the experiences, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think she comes at them under false pretenses, but I think she's attracted to the idea of the experience.
Yeah. She has the freedom to have these experiences without thinking a second about consequences, because even in the worst case scenario, she'll fly out, somebody will come and save her. I mean, the contrast of their experiences, that she doesn't even have to think about danger. It's not an issue. There's always a way out. Or someone like Samar, she doesn't have anything to fall back on. She has to fight for it and build it herself.
Yeah, by any means necessary.
By any means necessary, yeah.
Yeah. And yet the film is hopeful. And I think there's a more sensationalist way of marketing the film where it's like, oh, look at what they take from each other, what these people need from each other and what they provide, but the transactional nature of the relationship, like basically she's here for a week, whatever happens, happens, and then suddenly they catch feelings. That's the phony sell. There's something else going on that I think is, I mean, I'm not going to discuss it and I'll protect it in the intro and outro as well, because that's not fair. But there is something else at work. And I think the film leaning into that is really the most important thing. It's not the story, it's the way the story is told. And it's kind of aware that this is a movie made in the present moment where everyone wants something, nobody wants to say what it is, and we'll do anything to get it.
But you still have these glimpses of unexpected glimpses into characters' lives,
Oh, yeah.
which was especially important with Samar, because we always think we people who haven't had to flee and survive and be on boats that could drown any second and hear children cry and be in danger of death at any moment. That is the we I'm talking about, because I don't believe in us and them, any of that. It's all a giant we. But the contrast between someone like Maya and Samar, but Samar who in a survival mode. But what was so important for me and Amanda, who played the role of Samar, is to show the joy that even under the harshest circumstances in war, there is joy, and there will always be joy, because you can't take our joy away. You can't take our humanity is the ability to feel joy, to connect, to dance, to smoke, to have sex, to experience people, to laugh, to tell jokes, and it cannot be taken away.
Samara is someone who is very much aware of her capacity for joy, right? Like she's trying to keep it alive throughout, maybe.
Yeah. She never denies it.
Yeah. And it's intense and a little scary. And even when characters are kind of performing versions of themselves that they do to strangers or to new lovers, like we're all different people all the time, there is ultimately a truth, right? Like I think that's what we see in those moments of joy, those connections, maybe between the two of them. The agendas go away and they can simply exist together.
And that's beautiful. And Samar is also someone who stays so authentic and in exploratory mode. Even so, I don't think it spoils that she's a dancer, an erotic dancer. I think it's an outdated term, but we'll go with it. She dances in a club, and it can be seen as a very cliche experience. Okay, this is what I have to do to survive, because truly sometimes you have no choices, and it's a reasonable way to earn a decent living when you have no paperwork. You can't you don't have many options. But even in that circumstance where something very cliche may be expected of you, Samar stays authentic. She licks the pole. I love that moment where she's dancing and she licks the pole, because that's her way of having fun and engaging and being true and being just being wild. That's what I love about both of these characters. They are, Maya is a complicated person who has been spoiled by her privilege and hasn't been humbled until this moment. But they're both wild at heart, and I am all about rewilding the heart, and I hope this movie does a little bit of that, the rewilding of our hearts, and seeing two wild hearts who connect for a brief moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the 2 hours of Dragon Inn, but it's meaningful to them.
Yeah. Yes, well, that will be another version. I mean, imagine the Goodbye Dragon Inn version of this story.
My thanks to Anita Doron, whose new film Maya and Samar is now playing in theaters across Canada. Thanks also to Coral Carson. She knows what she did. You can find Anita on Instagram at electrospirit, all one word, ELECTROSPIRIT, and you can find Goodbye Dragon Inn on Blu-ray from Kino Lorber. It's also streaming on Canopy, Metrograph, and Kino Now in the US, and available to rent or buy on various VOD services across North America. You can find me on Blue Sky at Norm Wilner, and you can find this podcast there at Semcast, SEMcast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. The first year of the show is still available for just $20 at payhip.com/semcast. That's the first 52 episodes of Someone Else's Movie, 40 of which aren't currently available anywhere else. And check out my newsletter, Shiny Things, at shiny-things.ghost.io. I think you'll enjoy it. Our theme song is by The Last Year. If you like it, or the show in general, please say so. Leave a review wherever you've been listening. Every little bit helps, it truly does. And check out the other shows on the Frequency Podcast Network while you're doing that. Stay safe, watch movies, get all the boosters. I'll see you next week.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.